Thank you very much, Erifili. It's a delight to be here introducing one of Buñuel's, I can't say masterpiece because it's past masterpiece. He made so many masterpieces that the word loses its meaning. But Belle de Jour was his third film in color. He made Robinson Crusoe in 1952, The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, and then also another film, La mort à ce jardin, also in color. So this is the third color film that he made. So he made so many in black and white in Mexico, and of course with this previously in France with Un Chien Andalou and L'Âge d'Or. Well, how does this film come about? How does he get to make Belle de Jour? It was offered to him as a project by the Hakim brothers, Robert and Raymond, who were interested in the novel written by Joseph Kessel in 1929. But what Buñuel does is to bring the story forward so that it is a contemporary story set in the 1960s. And rather interestingly, as we know, and if you've been coming to some of the screenings before, Buñuel is not only fascinated by surrealism and the aesthetics of surrealism as he is in this film. And of course, one might say that Belle de Jour is probably his most surrealist film since Un Chien Andalou. That would be my view. I mean, along the way, he's always introducing surrealistic elements into films, even like Elle and El Bruto, and of course, The Phantom of Liberty and so forth. But this is very much a surrealist film from the point of view of its form, from the aesthetics. But what I'm also trying to say is that he contextualizes in socio-political terms the films. He's somebody who is very much aware of social issues, and as you may know, someone who was interested very much in Marxism in the Communist Party. Whether or not he was a member of the party or not is still a moot point. And therefore, it is interesting that at one point in the film, about halfway through the film, when Francisco Rabal, whom he loved as an actor, loved as a person, he used him in Nazarín as well. And he used to think of Paco Rabal as his nephew. He used to say, "Es mi sobrino," my nephew, because they were so close. Anyway, at one point, after a robbery, Paco Rabal and his sidekick end up in the brothel, and they bring with them a copy of the New York Herald Tribune. And as the newspaper lies there in the room of one of the prostitutes, she picks it up, and in her broken English, of course this is all set in France, she reads, "Abervan inquiry accused." Abervan, inquiry accused. And this is 1966, which is of course the disaster of the mining disaster in Aberfan in Wales in 1966. So it's grounded. The film is grounded in actuality as well. But to go back to Joseph Kessel, so what did Buñuel think about this? Was he interested in? Yes, he was. He was interested in. I'm not allowed to go more than 12 minutes, so I'm keeping my eye on the time. He was interested in two things. He was interested in the idea of a female masochist, which is the central character of the novel by Kessel. What he would make of this clearly is someone who's interested in the unconscious, someone who said that his master was the Marquis de Sade, and who was someone who also read widely in Buñuel and especially in Freud, and especially the interpretation of dreams. So that was one element of the book that he could, if you like, unearth, disinter, and develop in his own surrealistic way. But the second thing is that it offered him an opportunity. Ever the director who was interested in in form and in varying form, to use the dreams and daydreams and reveries of the central character of the protagonist, Céline, to sort of use those as overlaps with conscious reality, of everyday reality. When you think of Buñuel's films, so many of them are interested in experimenting, above all in questions of editing. When you remember Viridiana, but you came to see Viridiana. Think of that montage sequence where the Viridiana's beggars are praying the Angelus in a scene that recalls Dali's, Millet's Angelus, while at the same time, intercut with that, are those images of her cousin Jorge, played by Francisco Raval, his workers actually cutting timber, dealing with the mechanics of rebuilding this desolate and dilapidated estate that they have both inherited. There's an interesting montage sequence there that fascinated him. In another film, in the Phantom of Liberty, one mini narrative leads into another narrative right the way through that film. So he's interested in editing, and he says editing is the art of cinema. It's the essence of cinema. He says this in his various comments about the art of cinema. Right. So let's go back. He's interested in masochism, female masochism, perversion. He's interested in the possibilities of editing through the overlaps of dream and reality in the film. The central protagonist then is, and I won't give anything away, no spoilers here, I've been instructed to say, but nevertheless, she is the protagonist who becomes bored with her life as a bourgeoise and decides that the only way to release her hidden desires, her sexual desires, is to become a prostitute in a soigné, a chic, a house of shame run by the extraordinarily named Madame Anaïs, who says, by the way, you don't think this is my real name, do you? When she asks Séverine what her name is, and the answer is, well, she's given the name Belle de Jour. Interesting contrasts here. Sometimes we think of her as a Belle de Jour, someone who's associated with daylight, with brightness, with light. Later on in the film, there's a cat who's called Belle de l'Ombre, and there is a kind of duality. I mean, that's a transference of the darkness, if you like, of Séverine, of Belle de Jour, not only someone identified with light, but also through transference with darkness. Sometimes the color coding tells us this. In the outside world, if you like, and there are three worlds here, by the way, the normal daily life that she leads as a bourgeoise, the life that she leads as a prostitute at the house of shame of Madame Anaïs, and the third world is, of course, the world of reverie, of the unconscious, of dreams and daydreams. But in the real world, there's a color coding, and not sort of exclusively so, but it's interesting how white dominates. As you will see, there's a scene that is right at the beginning of the film, which is set in a skiing resort. In the brothel world, again, without saying that this is the exclusive color coding, she wears dark glasses, she wears dark clothes. Interestingly, the first time she comes, Madame Anaïs picks at her button, which is coming loose. Is this a sign that there is something not quite right in the perfect coiffure and dress of this bourgeoise soignée lady? But darkness there is the underside, the repressed side of her life, repressed in the conscious world. And in the dream world, often we see her associated, not exclusively, but sometimes, especially in the first dream sequence, with red. Is this a joke, a kind of joke about the Scarlet Woman, as she's dressed in red in her fantasies? Just to cut a long story short, I've said that there are three worlds, and they overlap. And Buñuel overlaps these worlds through editing, through cutting. And we are meant to see that really there is no difference between the three of them, that they're all part of the same thing. They're all part of the same dream. Is the whole film a dream? Is this really Buñuel's expression of a complex dream of subjectivity and of desire? Why does she go to the brothel? Well, there are all sorts of reasons. Is it that she finds her husband anemic and uninteresting and undemanding? Is it that she is someone who has been molested as a child, an 11-year-old child? This comes from the novel as well, and therefore thinks of sex, of sexual desire, as in some ways being connected with roughness and uncouthness, and therefore incompatible with the life of a bourgeoise that she has to lead with her a rather anemic husband? Or is it that at the brothel, there are all kinds of ways in which she can release sexual desires and needs? Voyeurism, roughness, submission, masochism, and even lesbianism, as you will see. Who are you, Madame Anaïs Esteva? Qui êtes-vous? Well, that's really, I think, the kernel of the story. Who is Belle de Jour? Who is Séverine, this severe Catherine Deneuve, this one ice maiden, porcelain, China doll look of an actress who seems to be impassive but yielding to all her repressed desires, which come back with a vengeance. Why does she go there? Well, Buñuel says, you work it out. Thank you.